So let's roll. Welcome to Educating Idiots podcast. Tonight, our guest is Lucy Moreton. You right, Lucy?
Hi.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Luce.
Hey.
Hey, Luce.
Hey.
Let's start off with then. Let us know a little bit about what you've come to talk to us about tonight.
Okay, so I've come here to talk to you about special educational needs, the lack of funding for the children, school spaces, and inclusivity in society.
Okay, and why? What is it about you and your life and your knowledge around this?
So I have a 5-year-old little boy called Ernie who is autistic and he's nonverbal. And it's been a struggle to get him where he is today.
Right. Okay. So, what's his actual diagnosis?
Autism.
Autism.
Yeah.
Okay. For those people that aren't aware,
Yeah.
is there actually a way to describe or define autism?
Well, autism is a neural divergent disorder that controls like our central nervous system, which help the children struggle to communicate, socialize, do everyday things that we can do. But the spectrum's so big, so it could be. I think everyone's a little bit autistic, so there's so many traits.
Yeah.
And it's just about trying to give them the right support to be able to live an everyday normal life like we can.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about little Ernie.
Yeah.
I'll also learn a little bit more about your son. So, how did this all begin? Like, did Ernie have a normal birth?
No, so I got diagnosed with preeclampsia, which is basically when you're pregnant, you have the placenta obviously feeds the child, the baby, but mine was not working properly, and I had to have an emergency section because he wasn't growing in the womb. So he was born at 34 weeks by emergency C-section and was starved of oxygen at birth and was... Okay.
Sorry, Liz. When did you find out that the placenta wasn't doing what it was supposed to do?
So I was 29 weeks pregnant,
Right,
and I got admitted to hospital because he had protein in my urine.
right.
So I got admitted to hospital then for 6 weeks, and then they scanned me, and he wasn't growing. So he didn't actually grow from 28 weeks.
Wow.
And then I had
But they was aware of it from that point.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you just manage it, or is there
No,
certain...
I had to go to hospital.
Wow, and literally have the baby?
No, I had to be in hospital for 6 weeks. I felt absolutely fine.
Oh, you just live there?
Yeah.
Wow.
I felt...
You was there a lot, weren't you?
Yeah, I was...
I am Lucy's brother as
Yeah.
well, so I know you two guys know that, but they don't. I think for me, I'm going to listen a lot more.
Yeah.
Because obviously Ernie's amazing, and
Yeah.
I think as an uncle as well, I can put my point of view on it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I really want to hear like your side of it.
Yeah.
And I existed in it, so to hear you say it was going to be
Yeah,
fun.
so I got admitted, and they basically said, you will not leave this hospital until your baby's born. And I was 29 weeks pregnant, so that just did my Swede.
Wow, yeah.
And I felt fine.
Did they say you'd go full term, or did they say...
try and get you as long as possible.
Right.
You have to have steroid injections for their lungs because the baby's lungs hadn't formed properly. They
Yeah.
form a little bit later on. And then I got to 34 weeks and I had a scan, and they just said he hasn't grown since 29 weeks. Like, we need to get him out. It's literally life or death.
Wow.
And then I had him the day after that. And the birth was fine. It was the section. It all went fine. And then I knew there was like a whole team already for him that was taken in neonatal. So I knew that he was already going to go there. So we have a visit to that the day before, and the ventilator and things like that
You could only go certain times, couldn't you?
to see him.
Yeah, so he got took away.
Oh, well, when he was born. So then he
Yeah.
was born. And I saw him for about 30 seconds, and then I never seen him again till the end of that day.
Did they tell you that was going to happen, or was that all a shock?
I thought I'd be able to go and see him, but when you've had a C-section, you can't move.
Right.
that was
yeah.
hard, wasn't it?
Oh,
I
it was the
remember, yeah.
worst. And his dad was able to go and see him, but I wasn't. So that was so hard. It felt like I hadn't had a baby because I hadn't gone through labour.
Yeah,
I felt like I'd just had surgery and that was it.
yeah.
What did that? I know. What was that going through your head at that time?
Well, I was worried that I wasn't going to love him or
Yeah, well,
know him, or I didn't kiss him, I didn't hug him. You know, you get that skin to skin. I didn't have any of that. He literally just got whipped away by a doctor. And then that was it.
So from 28 weeks onwards,
Yeah.
your journey became unique. Then it wasn't
Yeah.
the normal traditional journey that mums go through.
Yeah.
So really, that's where your challenges started.
Yeah.
And then you felt like the birth. Obviously, wasn't considered a normal birth.
Yeah. So
But that moment afterwards as well. that a lot of people wouldn't think of themselves. You know what I mean?
No,
But for
you're
you
right.
to go through that,
Yeah.
that's
So when he was taken to neonatal,
Lucy. Sorry, do you mind
no,
just pulling the mic slightly
yeah,
towards you a little bit?
yeah.
Yeah, just a bit closer.
When he was taken to neonatal, he was put on a ventilator, and then that's obviously did the breathing for him, and then I didn't see him till the day after. But he did actually do amazing.
How much did he weigh when he was born?
He weighed £3.14, but
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's tiny. But he dropped to £3.2 the next day.
And it was a
£3
constant.
two from
Yeah.
£3
It was a
14. That's a
constant
big
trying to
drop.
battle getting him weight on, wasn't it? As
Yeah,
well as you
as he
not
was
seeing
growing.
him and having
Yeah.
to see him.
So they obviously didn't. You don't when you preterm, you don't actually feed. You have fluids and things like that. You had to have a lumbar puncture. There was they thought he had sepsis, so it was just all those sort of things. Or meanwhile, while you're not really being updated about anything,
I was just about to ask, how good were they at communicating with you? New first time mum.
it's so hard. I don't want to slag them off as
I
it
get it.
was, but they were awful.
Is that because they didn't know? Or
No, because they haven't got the resources or the staff to come and tell you.
right.
So you're just sat in a room. I remember you all coming in, and they weren't able to go and see him. I was still on labour ward, but all my brothers came in to see me, and I'd not seen him.
It was a hard thing to have to be positive about.
Yeah.
Because obviously a birth of a child is something you want to celebrate with your family. and
Yeah.
But
not
it's
like
already
see
a hard thing to go through
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
especially for any first time mum. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
Well, they said he had a 60% survival rate the
When
minute
he was born? Oh, wow.
So then obviously I was just like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to die there and then, and every hour. But he did do amazing, and we was discharged at day 7. And
Oh,
then I
wow.
had a £3.2 baby at home, and was just like,
He
and
was he was
Yeah.
tiny.
with a baby that I didn't even know because I hadn't had him.
Mm.
So it was just all those sort of feelings.
Do you feel like that, even though it was all new for you and scary, did your like mother instinct kick in where you go on like autopilot? You just kind of do what
I felt
you-
like I thought I knew what I should do, but I don't think I did. I didn't think you I think with any woman probably would agree, you have a baby and you're supposed to feel this bundle of love, and I didn't feel like that,
Yeah.
which is not nice to say, but I didn't know
But
it.
it's honest. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are just, expected to feel a certain way.
Yeah,
And it's a life-changing, altering part of your life, even if everything's fine.
yeah.
And I think people are expected to get this feeling straight away, and maybe that's not what it is.
No, and I think I was just living I just thought he was going to die all the time.
That fear, that mum instinct
Yeah.
that kicked in from not.
So we came home and he was able to be bottle fed, and he didn't feed.
After 7 days, you could
Yeah,
have the
they
bottom.
kicked me out,
Yeah, that's. I was going to say 7 days seems
but
really
I was ready
quick.
to go.
Yeah.
A bit of both, yeah.
I was like, Jim, pick me up.
I need
So-
to get out of here.
Before you left the hospital, what did they say to you about what Ernie's life should be like, or what to be expected?
Yeah, so they didn't say anything about what his life would be like. They said obviously because he came off the ventilator and was able to breathe, he was fine. But because of my career, I knew.
And
in
what is
my-
it? What do you do?
So our mum owns a day nursery and I manage it.
Right.
So I've worked with children for 15 years. So I've seen
What's that called?
everything
What's the
going.
nursery
The
called?
nursery's called Forget Me Not Day Nursery.
Yeah, there you go, mum.
So I've seen all sorts of children, all sorts of development. So I just knew that he was going to have some sort of, well, I thought he would had some sort of learning difficulties. So I don't know even if I was looking for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You feared it. Or-
Yeah, I did. And it sounds horrible to say, but all my fears came true.
Yeah.
But I remember saying that to my mum the day before I had him. I remember saying to mum, he's going to have autism, isn't he? And she said, he may do, but
Is it
you'll be
hard?
fine.
Yeah, and is it more likely with that kind of birth, or is it?
Yeah, so
something-
if you're starved of oxygen at birth, then you're more likely to have a learning difficulty. And again, it also can be genetics, but I haven't had that testing. But either way, I think you would have had it.
Do you feel like you'd even need that testing? Does
No,
it really matter to you?
No, not at all. I think maybe if he didn't have the birth that he had, I probably would have had it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But no, it's a blood test as well, so I don't want to put him under any stress for no reason. So.
So, at what point was autism confirmed in Ernie's life?
So Ernie met all his milestones up until about 12 months old, gestational age. So when you have a child preterm, you go what age this should be, if that makes you go 6 weeks prior. So when he turns 1, he's not actually 1, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
So he met all those milestones perfectly fine. And then it got to he started to talk and babble. So he'd say mama and dada and things like that. And then I didn't know a day when it happened, but then he just stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And that was my telltale sign.
Yeah.
Oh, so he started to make those sounds.
Yeah, he
I
said,
didn't know that.
yeah, so in the morning he would wake up in his bedroom. He was 8 months old, I'd probably say. And he'd go, mama, and he'd say Jack, and he'd say fish. Like the
Really?
sounds.
really?
You know,
Yeah.
like typical sounds when
Yeah,
babies make
yeah.
those sounds. And then they regressed, and that is a typical sign. That is the telltale sign.
Is that what it is? Is it regressing or is
Yeah.
it choice? It's not their choice. They're not.
No.
They're not choosing not to.
No, so autism is a brain. It's a disability in your brain.
Yeah.
An autistic brain is not the same as ours.
No.
You're born with it. So ADHD, you're not born with.
Right.
It could be like a trauma in your life or an illness or something, and it will spark something.
Yeah.
And then that's where like hyperactive comes through and things like that.
Right.
But autism, you're actually born with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people recognise that. I think it's quite, everyone said, oh, he's autistic, or I think he's autistic.
Yeah, no, it's natural born. Yeah,
Well, in
oh.
America, you have to have a brain scan to diagnose, where here you don't. You just go on traits. So
Oh,
I think
really?
there's
Why is that?
probably funding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they go on behaviour rather than biological.
Yeah, so there's obviously
Diagnosis.
loads of traits if you're autistic. So it's like typical traits. So if you want to if you think your child has autism, you collective all these sort of like behaviours, and that's how you get diagnosed in England. But in America, you have to have a brain scan, which
is
I
that more efficient? Would you say
a brain
That-
scan,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I was just
so
about
they-
to say
yeah.
because you said this. Well, as we know, the spectrum's huge.
Yeah.
We could all be autistic
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
100%.
So the amount of traits within that spectrum, you hit one of them.
Yeah.
It's
And
hard
also-
to determine,
also
isn't
as well, if you're fearing something and you get given those traits, do they look for them or do you? Or
I think if you're a teenager, I know that now, I feel that it's quite, I won't say popular, but it's quite fashionable, I think, to get a diagnosis when you're a little bit older. And I think as a teenager, if you felt a bit different to everyone else and then you Googled it and then you go to your doctor, you're going to get diagnosed.
So in my experience of obviously similar to your background of working with
Yeah.
children and young people, I've always felt it was really hard to actually get a diagnosis of autism.
Yeah.
So there are actually some children out there where it's suspected because
Yeah.
of the funding and the lack of resource.
Yeah.
To get an actual diagnosis is really difficult.
Yeah.
Has Ernie got his actual diagnosis?
Yeah. So Ernie was diagnosed in, he was 2.5 years old when he was diagnosed.
Right.
But that was just so hard to get. But I just got every bit of information, every bit of evidence that I ever had with a big black folder and went to the doctor and the paediatrician. But you've got to get your doctor to agree to get you a referral to a paediatrician.
Yeah, which is
Which
hard
is
in
nightmare.
itself.
They don't even answer the phone.
Yeah.
But I went privately for a lot of things, like speech therapy, has private speech therapy, private occupational therapy. So I got all those reports to be able to go to the doctor.
Right. Okay. Oh, so you went private to get the
you did that
assessments.
homework, didn't you? You basically
Yeah,
did the
But it's
legwork.
sad that you have to do that, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think my career, I know what you need to be able to get that diagnosis. And but I think even now it's so much harder because of COVID. There's so many waiting lists.
So do you think there's a lot of people struggling right now?
Yeah.
Getting that information?
Well, it's really
Especially for under 10.
it's a privilege that you was in a position to be able to go private to get your
Definitely,
assessment.
yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't be in that position to
Yeah.
do that who have just got to wait at the back of the list. And,
Yeah.
This is one of the problems with that. So it was difficult to, even with the birth, it was still difficult to get the diagnosis for
Yeah.
Ernie. How did it make you feel once you got that? Did it answer any questions? Did
Um,
it change anything for you?
So when I knew he had autism, I was heartbroken. I just didn't expect motherhood to look like the way it was looking like. When I was a little girl, I thought it wouldn't look like the way it looks, even now.
You struggled to get pregnant as well, didn't you?
Yeah,
So it's something
yeah.
that you've waited for a long
Yeah,
time.
it took us 8 years to get pregnant, and we had we was on medication, and then we came off it, and then randomly got Ernie. So he's a little miracle anyway.
Yeah.
And our granddad's called Ernie.
Yeah, our
And
granddad's
he
got
named
Ernie,
it-
so
and
he's
he
named
passed
after
away, yeah.
Ernie, yeah. But when I knew that, I was making excuses. I kept thinking he had, he couldn't hear properly because that's a massive sign of a speech delay. So I was going to get his ears tested, praying that he was, partially deaf or something like that, which is not something you ever want.
No.
But now I would never change it for the world. I'd only change him being able to communicate, but I would never change him being autistic because it's amazing.
there's an amazing part of Ernie that's come from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. He's very clever. You know, he gets everything he wants without talking.
Everything he wants.
Yeah. The way his mind works is just unreal, and it's just so interesting, I think, to see how he does
So
everything.
you learning a different way to look at obviously bringing a child up and seeing a different section of intelligence in different
Yeah,
ways.
I think if I look at some of my like school friends and friends that have had children the same age as Ernie, their life is so different to ours.
Yeah.
And I think if I was a negative person, it could really affect me, but I'm not. So I just try to be positive.
Yeah.
You know, simple things like going out for dinner or going around to your house and things like that. It's hard to do.
What are
So
the hard things? So with Ernie growing up, what was the hardest things that were different to normal mums? As you would say, normal.
I would just say like normal mum things. So like going to a park, you can't go if someone's on the swing. He doesn't understand to wait. Going out for dinner, like when we all went on holiday, he was 1 when we went on holiday, and he was actually really good. But it was after then I realised that he wasn't the same. He slept a lot. He didn't really understand where he was. You know, typical 18-month-old on holiday is running around,
Well, I
loving it
took
in the
him to
pool.
the beach, and
Yeah.
he reacted differently to
Yeah.
different things in the wind rather than
Yeah.
people playing. And out,
Yeah, he wouldn't get
nephews
like
and
a
nieces.
Bucket and spade or anything
Yeah.
like that.
So
Because
the learning journey then for you as a mum to
Yeah.
learn around how to raise your child.
Yeah.
We all go through that learning journey with kids. Yours is very different, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's so many families that are on their own, and you've got to have a really good support. If I didn't have I've got amazing friends and family, and I think if I didn't have that, I'd go insane. And it's about fighting for what's right for your child, which you shouldn't have to do.
No.
And it's been the biggest fight.
So in regards to the system then,
Yeah.
I'm going to make an assumption that you don't feel supported by the system.
No, not at all.
Okay. So what support does Ernie receive or your family receive
Yeah,
outside of your household?
nothing. So
Absolutely nothing.
no, so your child gets diagnosed with autism, and the reason why you need that diagnosis is because you need that for his education.
Is it classed as a disability?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's classed. So if you're non-verbal as well, he is severely disabled. That's what it's classed as. So you need the diagnosis to be able to get the funding for school. So even if you're at nursery or primary school, the schools need that diagnosis to get funding so that they can get supported. But
By support, do you mean at school but extra help?
Yeah.
Right. So
Because I couldn't send him. So when he started primary school,
Yeah.
I couldn't send him without that support because it's dangerous.
Right. Okay.
And the other thing that I think that's really important to acknowledge is that this isn't just about a set of people saying no. Not only do they do that, but they try to coerce you
Yeah.
into making choices that are not of benefit. Obviously, I've been through a similar experience with my son.
Yeah.
And there was only one school that could educate him
Yeah.
where he could spend only one in
Yeah.
the area. And the local authority gave him a place in another school, which would have been a danger for him.
Yep.
And even
Why?
for other
It'd be like a
professionals.
mainstream school.
It wasn't a mainstream school, but the children there were more able. But also behaviourally harder to
Yeah.
control.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they can't be around children so Harley wasn't mobile.
Yeah.
So he can't revert risk
Yeah.
like most children can
Why would they put that school over the other one?
because it's cheaper.
And
Oh,
there's no
wow.
space.
And the
Because
space
in a
is
special school, it isn't like year 7, 8, and 9, or
No.
it goes on development. So Ernie would be in a class with probably like no one in a wheelchair, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
And they don't leave. So like when you're in primary, you move up and then you get the whole next set of kids.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in special school. Once you've got your space, you're there till you're 19.
Oh, really? So it's an integrated thing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So in Ernie,
it's
so
become split.
Ernie now has got a space at a special school in September.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good news.
so what was the process of getting that done?
Yeah, so to get into a special school, you have to have something called an EHCP, which is an educational healthcare plan. And to get that, it's basically like a certificate or a contract from the local authority to say that this child or young adult is going to be supported till they're 25, and we're going to make sure that their education is supported.
So just so I'm clear, so
Okay.
I don't interrupt you too
Okay.
much, but social care funding
Yeah,
and healthcare funding. Does Ernie consider to have health problems, so therefore you
Yeah.
can access health funding as
yeah,
well?
yeah,
Right, so it's dual funding.
yeah.
Yeah.
So to get that EHC, that's what it's called, you have to have an assessment to get that. So this is where the problem lies. So you have to have an assessment. So you are proving that your child has a need.
Mm.
And you are walking into a room on your own with a panel of people who've never met your son, and they say yes or no.
Oh, and do you bring him in, or is it
No,
just you?
but
So you have to,
I know somebody that did take their child in and
Yeah.
say good luck,
yeah.
and it worked.
I would imagine, yeah, because like you say, to go in and then put that case across to people that are judging you,
Yeah,
they've got no idea. That must be difficult.
Before you even walk in the room, those professionals on that board amongst themselves would have been arguing over whether to give you the funding or not.
yeah,
So they have their own battles, particularly with health and social care.
Yeah.
When you've got dual funding, it's like it's health's problem. No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's social
Oh,
care.
so they're
Yeah.
passing the book.
Oh,
and
just
trying-
passing the
because
book.
it's
okay.
just all money.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be called a PCT. The board.
Yeah.
Is it still PCT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What's that?
The PCT. Yeah.
What's
It's
that
the
stand for?
is it pediatric? The primary care trust.
So yeah,
The primary care trust.
Right.
so if you've got like medical needs, that's a different like ball game where Ernie isn't classed as medical needs, but it's classed as health needs.
Right.
Because he's not got a disability like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that biological aspect kind of finishes there at birth.
Yeah.
Then it's all kind of like behavioural and
Yeah.
social care.
So that's it. So it's just all behavioural and understanding and awareness and communication and just everyday things that we take for granted every day. And a typical neurotypical child can do, they can't do. Some can.
How can you go to a panel of people and just explain that?
Because
Surely they'd have to assess the child as opposed to the parent.
No, so they read it on a list. They just read it.
The panel have all come from some sort of career themselves. So you'll have a nurse on there, you
Yeah.
might have a social worker
Yeah.
on there, and that ticks that box that you're asking.
it's all out
And
of
all of
it.
a sudden, they're qualified to decide on what's best for your life.
Yeah, but
and
that's
your
crazy.
family.
What if you're not very good at articulating your words? What,
So-
Well,
assess the child.
and
not
this
the
is where
parent.
vulnerable people get taken advantage of.
And that's why like
So-
Lucy's tenacity has got her to where it is as well.
So-
you
Yeah.
got to.
Have you heard of like masking? So a lot of children mask their so especially girls.
Yeah.
So boys are typical for autism, but there is a lot of girls that have it, but they mask it because girls will hide it in a certain space. So if they're at school, they might be extremely clever, but then they can't make friends, they can't tie their shoelace, they can't go to the toilet. But all that school is seeing, the mainstream school is seeing, is those
educational outcomes.
Yeah.
That's it.
that's all they're bothered about.
Not the actual kid.
No.
So.
So they're suppressing their personality, and then they end up being, dare I say it, the odd child that's there with no friends.
Yes, and socially
where they
struggle.
where that education setting isn't right for them. There needs to be like a special educational needs unit in every school,
Mm.
and there isn't.
And what, based on how they progress rather than stages, just
Yeah.
how the individual
Yeah.
progresses.
Can I ask, do you access the support of a social worker?
No,
you do it all yourself?
yeah, I don't need one, and
Yeah.
I could. You've been offered one, but
Yeah.
just said no.
Well,
But-
Wow,
Should
you
be
both,
saying this, I
both
don't know
looked- I know,
before,
yeah, you
but-
both look like.
well, there's major issues with the way social workers are educated,
yeah,
the way they're developed.
Mm.
I could go on for ages about it, but the caliber of individual that you get as a social worker, I'm guessing you're cleverer and more proactive than they are anyway.
Yeah.
I think when you got
So
the itches-
therefore, you don't need one.
no. And I think if I've got friends who do use it and access it, and I've tried to help them as much as possible, but I've got a full-time job, and I've obviously got Ernie, and then I've got a good social life and friends and things, and I think I have to say no as well sometimes to some people, but I try my hardest and signpost them where I can, and definitely since Ernie's been given this special school place,
Yeah.
I've tried to help a little bit more now. I know like the progress and how it works.
What would your advice be then to somebody who hasn't got that kind of? Where would they begin?
So you know your child, so you push as much as possible. You ring every single day, you email every single day, you go down, and because I had to take legal action against the local authority because basically somebody left and then another person left and his file got put to the bottom of the pile,
Wow.
and something that should have happened in November didn't happen till this February. So
Yeah. I can empathise because we had to threaten legal action
yeah,
for them to make the decision.
yeah.
Because some people won't go that far. That's what I'm saying. You two are quite tenacity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your
It's actually
personality-
Harley's mum, Lucy. She was amazing.
Yeah.
She was like you.
Yeah, but some
yeah.
people aren't going to be
incredible.
like that, and they're going to believe what they're hearing and be deterred
That's
from
exactly right, because you listen to a doctor who has like a GP has no, like even this week I've took Ernie to the GP and they're asking him, they know him since he's been born, and they're asking him what hurts, and not just saying it to acknowledge him.
Yeah.
They're saying, "Does this hurt?" And me and my friends looking at each other like, "No."
it. Yeah, you got to remember you're the expert.
Yeah,
and
I'm
other
telling you, it's
people-
like going to a vet. That's what I always feel like with Ernie. He's taking him to the vets.
Yeah, they can't
because
tell you
dogs
anything.
can't say anything, can
Of
they?
course, yeah.
But
The
the
doctor sounds like an idiot.
yeah, but
Asking
it's not. That's not just him.
Well, it's
That-
not a new
we
doctor,
went
is
to
it?
A&E, and that's the same thing that happened at A&E. They asked why I was in a pushchair straight away the minute we went through the doors. And I'm always on defense.
How does that make you feel? Well, of course, it can make you
Awful.
feel defensive.
And I
isn't it?
just thought,
I was, I spend a lot of time in hospital
Yeah.
getting to understanding doctors.
yeah,
It's just they're very intelligent people
yeah,
who save lives at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Some of them are incredible people, but it's remarkable their lack of ability and awareness
Emotion.
around managing people's emotions.
I bet a lot of them are autistic.
Yeah,
And do you think-
yeah.
Do you think
Good
it
point,
would be in
yeah.
that
So-
job to be empathic would be difficult? So do you think?
Maybe.
Are they two opposite skill
Yeah,
sets? The skill
yeah.
set you need to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to the nurses who
Yeah,
run the place,
yeah.
who run the wards, most of them are incredible,
Yeah, they were.
die-hard,
Yeah.
committed people who actually will make sure that you feel okay,
Yeah.
etc. But doctors delivering news, I mean,
You get numb to it because it'd be happening every day. And I
it's their
think
job. It's just a
yeah,
job to
it's
them.
a job, yeah.
I think in society it needs to be more inclusive anyway. Anywhere where you go, it's not inclusive for a child with special needs, like regardless of autism, with every sort of need. So even like the parks, like if your child's in a wheelchair, there's no they can't go on anything.
Yeah.
But you have to find a park that's made for them, and why? They should go to the park that's down the road. Every park should have the clips on the roundabout so you can put a child with a wheelchair on and it can spin round.
Yeah, everything's talking about including all different types of people, and that needs to be included, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Really, because there's an avenue where if you can't take your child to a nearest park, where do you take them?
Exactly.
What comes to my mind there is, though, are we setting the expectations too high because they can't even get the kids into schools properly?
No.
Never mind. Then
Oh, we're
specialist
setting them
parks
too
for
hard.
That's
What I'm
my
saying
aim.
is
That's a
they're
goal
things-
for
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're the things that they
they
should
can't. We can't get the basics right in
No.
society, and society now. One of the issues that we're facing is that technology and medicine's advancing, right, and our understanding of these conditions. Because 100 years ago,
Yeah.
no one would even know people with autism were just cast out from
Yeah.
society. Where now we're so aware of these things, and we are working towards understanding it more and making it better.
Yeah.
But that means that children, particularly with the health, not like Ernie, but with health needs, they're
Yeah.
living longer,
Yeah.
and therefore they need more support and more parks and more housing and more education.
Yeah.
And the government can't keep up. It's as simple as that, isn't it? So people like you, parents like you, are now suffering as a result of that. I don't really know what I mean in your community then, because obviously you know other families
Yeah.
with children with autism. What are your general thoughts around this? Like, what are your solutions, or what do you want to change?
So I want every child to be able to access an education that's safe and correct for them. And my argument is, any of your children that got put into, if so, you apply for a school and it's normally near your house and you get accepted and they go to school. Now, if that school was full and they put one of your neurotypical children into a special needs school because there wasn't any space, you'd go mad.
Yeah. It's the same
And
thing.
also, I need with a child that goes into those mainstream schools, their abilities get met. They say that they're in that group. They get like sort of put on a train. So it works for some people, it works for others. But if you've got those special needs and that's required, you can't do that within that
So
structure. can you?
Ernie was gone to a really nice little mainstream school in reception, and they've been amazing with him. But that's because I went with everything, and he already came to my nursery, so I already managed to get like the top funding that he could, and it carries on into school. So school didn't have to do that. I sent him with it. if
So
that
the
makes
fund
sense.
did the funding help the schools then
Yeah.
create a job
So
for it?
So then he's
okay.
got a one-to-one. He's never left alone, and he does enjoy it there. But that's all it goes to. It's just play. He's surviving, not thriving,
Yeah.
and he needs to thrive in an education setting. And that's like so many children.
And thriving is possible for Ernie.
100%.
And that's one of the things that you struggle to get across these
Yeah.
people.
Well,
isn't it,
I
on these
didn't even
boards.
know that. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand the process because, like you say, they're putting them into a school. You think, okay, that's the educational system. Then I've watched your fight towards that.
Yeah.
And like you say, if you can add something to his life, which is what school's about or what education
And
is
if you
about.
Google, celebrities or scientists that are autistic, there's so many. Well,
Yeah.
Albert Einstein was autistic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and their mind is
Well,
just,
Elon Musk is
Yeah.
got Asperger's.
yeah. It's
And if
just-
so, how many of those are slipping through the net? How many people
Yeah.
are not getting support from that? And the parents frustrated because of that system.
So there's a little boy that I know who can read and write but can't speak. But he will go into a mainstream school because he can read and write.
Wow.
That's
And then
such a
that puts
shame.
pressures on the teachers as well
Yeah.
because the teachers aren't qualified to teach.
And that
sort of
goes to
thing.
the strikes.
Yeah.
It's a full circle. So then they're getting these children in who they can't look after.
Now no one's getting educated.
No. So, because there's a strikes. But even with nursery, we have to turn down some children because it has to be safe. We can't take all the children in. We'd love to, and so would school. But basically, mainstream is saying we can't take them, but there's no space for them in special schools. So where do they go?
How many options of schools did you have then?
So they offered.
Joe said you had like one in the area.
Yes.
We had one for Harley.
So
Yeah,
that's
so
a lot
Harley-
of people fighting for that one
Exactly.
place.
And so obviously their needs are completely different. You don't really get a choice. Like, you go around and look at these schools like you do normally, and because there's no space, you have to take what you can get. And there's only 2 schools local to me that were able to take Ernie, but they offered me one like 20 miles away. And if you turn it down, then that means you don't need it. But there's no way I'm taking him 20 miles away. If anything happened, I've got to work.
And people have to accept that to just get what they're going, and then that adds to their life as well as
Yeah.
already. I know that the difficulties with Ernie don't just go past the school day.
No.
They start at night time.
Yeah.
He doesn't sleep,
No, he
does
doesn't
he?
sleep. No. So
At all?
no. So he hit 2. So he slept amazing. I always go back to that holiday, but the holiday we all went, he slept amazing on that
The
holiday.
Lanzarote holiday.
Yeah. And then got
Ben
home.
keeping him up. That's right.
Yeah.
If you've seen Ben party, and he was like, "Oh, I'm having a bit
It
of
was
that."
of course to you.
Yeah, more like
No.
it.
He slept amazing on that holiday, and then we came back, and I think it was his brain. He turned 2, and that was it. And we haven't had a week's sleep.
How do you manage that?
I don't know. A good support system. Me and his dad alternate nights, do 2 on, 2 off, or 1 on, 1 off, depending how tired we are. And then I've got like amazing friends that swap with me and things like that.
So on top of your normal life, you manage a day nursery. You do
Yeah.
all the same stuff as all of us do,
Yeah.
with all the normal stresses of life and
Yeah.
stuff. And on top of that, you're doing 2 on, 2 off
Yeah.
night shifts.
Well, sometimes 1 on, 1 off.
And you love a party.
Yes, I love a part. Well, I don't think they know that.
Literally, superwoman.
Yeah, super.
But you have to have your own life, because I would lose it.
Yeah.
That's what you do. That's what my point is. That you
Yeah.
do well at. You manage to put the sections in and then enjoy yourself, but then go straight back into mode of
Oh yeah, I'll be in
dealing
your
with the
kitchen at
situation.
5 a.m. and then home at 7.
dealing with Ernie.
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it's probably made me worse having Ernie, because I can literally last on like 2 hours sleep. And everyone else is like that.
Well, I suppose you're all adjusting to that, though, aren't
yeah,
you?
well,
Because your
Margaret
son's
Thatcher
like
run the
that.
world on 5 hours sleep.
4, I think it was 4
country,
hours.
sorry, there
Was
you go.
is that a fact?
Yeah.
4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what she did?
yeah.
Trained
She's
herself.
G,
didn't
wasn't
she?
she?
Yeah,
Which is
she
why you
was.
managed to get him into school, because you had that much time. He was like, right.
Well, that is true. So in the night, I research when he's awake, and then I'll email like.
Does he lay in bed, or is he literally just playing the whole
It
time?
depends how his mood is. Sometimes he'll lay in bed on a good night. Sometimes,
But
we'll
lay in
not.
bed and not
His-
sleep, just
his-
lay in bed and
His
chill.
play
sort
is
of thing.
different though as well, isn't it? His
Yeah.
play, so his play is not what you'd imagine.
So
a
toys aren't
normal game.
toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to really think out of the box. Toys aren't toys. He's starting to like toys, but like he will like a ball in a cup. Simple.
Yeah.
Like we'll go to a toy shop and won't spend anything. He just runs up and down. He loves it. Like we start, the seaside. It costs everyone a bomb, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not my kid. I'm just like sat back. He just runs up and down. Loves the noises. He presses the buttons. Although he is starting to realise like something comes out of the machine.
Yeah.
But I don't ever need to change any change, and everyone else does. But it's just little things like that.
Yeah.
Does the lack of sleep not affect his health, though?
Yeah, it does affect his health. It definitely affects mine. But but an autistic brain again. I'll just go back to our brother. I know he won't mind me saying this, but our other brother Jake, and like what you were saying about 100 years ago. Since we us having Ernie, my mum has realised that is all the traits in my other brother. He never slept. He's extremely intelligent, isn't he? He struggles socially. Like we're very sociable people. He's not. So it's about learning from Ernie that Jake probably is autistic as well, and he doesn't sleep.
And he used to get really confused, and you could see him maybe hurt with the fact that he couldn't get him to interact.
Yeah.
But I think then he maybe mirrored what he was seeing as well.
Definitely, because he doesn't interact very well, and I was just talking to him on the way here, and he said that he's learnt so much from Ernie, but he
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
sleep
it's-
either. So I'm
But
saying,
the more now he's understood certain things, he's now progressing so well, and
Yeah.
he's learning to. Because if you don't know what's sort of hindering you,
yeah.
you've
And
already.
I think as well with touching on Jake, he pushed himself to go to parties and be in bars and things like that, and it wasn't his place because he doesn't like being around a lot of people, and that's why I don't take Ernie anywhere like that, because he doesn't like.
And
being
now
around
he's
a lot of
found
people.
his happiness with what he does, and like
Yeah.
you say, there's so many other people that are probably undiagnosed
Yeah.
and slip through it, and
Yeah, there's a lot
and
of
probably
adults.
and thinking about how they fit in society, and
Yeah.
they don't know what's going on.
Crazy. Why is there not enough schools? Is it just a money thing?
It's a
Can't
good-
afford to?
Yeah,
But they can't afford it. So the one that Harley went to,
yeah.
that's one school that you could go to was actually a charity-run private school. So the local authority still needs to pay for it, but they were a charity that they decided to set up the school. If it wasn't for that school, the nearest school for Harley would have been like an hour's drive away.
Wow.
And then they say to you, well, we'll offer you transport, because when you get into a special school, you can have transport.
Yeah.
But I've got a flexible at work where I want to drop him off and I want to pick him up.
And also as well,
Yeah,
to have that sort of relationship with your child and go through all of those trials and tribulations, and then to put them on a bus for an hour and a half
with other
not
children,
with other
different
children,
needs.
not knowing where they are. That's another anxiety increase in
And
problem.
then the local authority literally said to me, leave your job.
Really?
Yeah.
Leave your job.
Leave my job. So I said, do you want me to
claim benefits.
Yeah, leave my
your
job. And what's carer's allowance? 63 quid a week.
But
It's not
surely-
even minimum wage.
Do they not offer you? Sorry, do they not offer you respite for the night shifts? Do they have-
Yeah, I could have respite, and he does qualify for a night carer, but I think that's something when he's a bit older, just because I've got a lot of support and I don't want to, I don't know if I'm
You want the
ready
people
for that
around you.
yet. Yeah, maybe when he's a bit older and a bit bigger. But with an EHCP, with an educational healthcare plan, it lasts till he's 25. So that means he's going to be at the school he's at now in September, hopefully till he's 19.
And would that be one-on-one?
No. So when you're in a special school, it's 8 children to 5 members of staff. And that would be perfect for Ernie. I've met all the children that are in his class, and they all seem to have similar needs. So they've put him in a good class. And they've got hydro pool there. They've got a sensory room. They have donkeys.
Does that make you feel more at ease?
100%. I picked him up today, and he's in if there's 40 kids in that class running around.
Does he then?
Wow.
Now he's a bit more stimulated. Does it change anything, or?
What do you?
So did it
he's
change
not
his
there yet.
sleeping patterns? Oh, he's not there.
No,
yet.
you start there in September.
So is that every day?
Yeah,
Do you think that's going to have a big impact on your life?
100%.
Yeah,
And
it must be a relief.
It'll be real school hours, because he doesn't start school till 9:30, and I pick him up at 2:15. So I do like an 8-hour day in 4 hours.
So where's Ernie been up until now? Then?
So he's at reception in a school in Gedlin, which have been amazing. But there's 42 kids in that class, and he does have a 1-to-1. But so that means there's a teacher, 1 TA, and then Ernie's, and 40 children. And there's not just Ernie in there that has any need.
And also
But the only reason Ernie gets it is because he has that EHCP plan.
Yeah.
So there's kids in there that.
And do you notice a difference in when he's around other children that he's not getting that support? Because I know he does a lot of sensory stuff. And
I think he's very overstimulated when he's been to school, and he needs to calm down. But he goes to his special school once a week anyway now. They do a stay and play, and that's for children who aren't even attending that school. And he just loves it. There's a huge sensory room, there's soft play, there's just everything. There's
And that's where he'll be going.
Yeah,
where
Lego
that's something.
therapy. And there's also lots of males there, which is what I think he needs. In a typical primary school, you've probably got 1 or 2 male.
Why do you think he needs males?
I think he just needs that strong, firm character.
Yeah.
I think he loves my dad. I think he thrives off that. I think
Yeah.
women.
He likes
force.
being. You've noticed that he likes being.
Well,
rude.
Yeah. He loves you.
Jim doesn't speak.
Yeah.
So I think but I've watched because
So
I've
who's Jim?
he's our dad.
Yeah,
stepdad.
stepdad.
So
Yeah.
for me though, as an uncle, I love my nephews and nieces, and I've wanted to interact and play. And he's been a challenge for me, because I'm like, okay, I could normally do this, I could normally do that.
Yeah.
I pull tricks out, I start smiling and laughing.
Yeah, it's harder
But
to win over.
It is, yeah, and you have to play a certain game with him, but you know the moments you get something. I remember I was sat in a restaurant and we played a game with ice, and he interacted for probably a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But the interaction was it overwhelmed me a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, but and you can see it, and then it just drifts off again. But it was amazing. It was an amazing little moment. But
He has at Luke's house, when Luke first had Reggie, he will.
he's a dog. by the way, yeah.
Oh yeah. When Luke first had the dog, he loves the dog. So now our other brother, we sound like Jim.
I know, yeah.
You like dogs?
They're
We
a
like
massive
Jimmy,
family. There's
big
loads of
Jimmy.
them.
We like dogs. Yeah, the
there's
brother.
loads of
Yeah,
us, like
yeah.
gremlins. Our other brother, he's just brought a new dog, and so when he comes to my door, Ernie will look for the dog now, and then he'll pull them in the house.
Yeah.
So then Joe's ended up staying there for 3 hours.
He can walk you around any house and get anything he wants just by walking. And
Yeah, he
grabbing your
pulls
hand.
you to get everything.
Yeah, he does.
He did that with me when we went
Yeah.
away that weekend, and we
Yeah.
just went for that walk on the
Yeah.
field. He was just walking.
But
Yeah.
we went away that weekend, and I remember having a conversation with Ben because Kane stayed up all night.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Is that what
Who's Kane?
happens?" Kane
Kane
is Lucy's partner. Yeah,
Ernie's
so
dad.
the father and his dad. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Partner in this.
Oh
No,
yeah.
don't be silly.
No.
Do you
Yeah.
want to rewind that and then that a bit out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah,
Ernie's
let's do that. Ernie's dad. But when we was away on the
My favourite
holiday,
was-
all the kids were playing and going to bed and just doing. You could sort of create moments for them to do that. Whereas Ernie just did his own thing. Did
However,
it?
now I think if you do that, like Dad's thing again, he would be so different and he gets so much more enjoyment out than he ever did because we take him away all the time, me and my friends, and he comes alive when he's away.
Does he?
Yeah, he's not bothered where we're staying. Like, but as long as it's something different, there's like a hot tub or something like that, he loves it. He's chill. Like it's like.
So do you feel like you've found a few more gateways into what he likes and sort of because I know me personally, I know he's been ill,
Yeah.
and I know that's a difficulty with somebody who's non-verbal especially a child, to figure out what's going on with them.
Yeah.
You didn't know he was ill, did you?
No, so obviously every child behaviour's changed, but his behaviour changed in the last like 15 days. And I was away, went to a wedding, and his dad was saying there's something wrong with him, and then I'm coming back and he seems fine. So then I was thinking, is it because I'm not there? And then he started to, and when I say he doesn't sleep, he has about 4 hours, but he literally then was having nothing. And we were sleeping in the car. I was telling you earlier, like literally was putting him in the car like you would like a 6-month-old that's crying. Put him in the car, and he was falling asleep. So we're literally sleeping in the car.
Because that's the only thing that would settle him.
Yeah. Like my other brother Joe, who lives on the same road as me, he's driving to work at 6:30 in the morning, and he's like, "Have you been black bagged?" I've got my own house because we've got a pillow and a quilt, and he's asleep. But that was all I could do. But then I literally just found out today he has a water infection, but he can't tell me.
Oh, that must be so frustrating for him. How frustrating that must be for him.
And then he starts to self-harm. So that's where we started to come. He's starting to headbang.
Well, it's frustration, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, you can't verbalise it.
He's got like big
do it in
bruises on his
actions.
head. Like he's starting to head. That's how I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's his frustration
Yeah.
of not being able to understand.
And that must create frustration in you watching him do that.
Oh, it's horrible. And also I think people don't understand how hard that is because, every child gets poorly with everyday symptoms, but anything little, it changing his life, it just ruins your whole day. Like everything changes. You have to cancel things. Like I can't go to work, and that's why I'm lucky where I work because if I worked at Tesco, I'd be sacked.
Yeah, you can't get somebody just to look after him when he's ill.
No.
Could you just sit him while he watches telly?
No,
It's not
he
a
won't.
thing.
No, there's nothing like that. Like my mum doesn't have him overnight or anything like that. Like
Do you work full time?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I am lucky I can go in when I want and things like that. But it is my job's a massive responsibility and I love my career.
Yeah.
And that I've always wanted to progress in that.
You haven't
It's
given up
massive.
yourself.
No.
That's what you've done.
It's massive that you've done that because, a lot
I
of people
think-
might say, you know what, I'm going to stop work. I can't do both.
I couldn't do it for my mental health. Like
Yeah.
I have to go to work. I think and have your brain on something else. I couldn't sit at home with him all day.
How does your mental health get affected by?
I think I don't really suffer from it, but I think if that's because I've got such a good support. But there's sometimes where I've said to you before, like I've been scared because of the way I've been feeling, and I've not ever felt like that before. Like anxiety's been like really high, and then feeling like I'm a rubbish mom and I'm not doing the right thing for him. But I think it all comes out in the end. Like it was more his schooling that I was so worried about because I thought, what on earth am I going to do?
Yeah. Now
Because
you've
they
got that
literally
boxed
say-
off, it just made you feel a lot
They would
calmer.
say I have to have him at home.
I think them 9 days when you're in the hospital. I think you thought, what am I going to do as a mom? I think you've done amazing as a
Oh,
mom.
thank you.
Yeah, no, you have.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. I think when you are a young girl and, I think everyone wants to be mum and everyone should get that opportunity because it is amazing. But I never thought it would be like this. I feel like someone handed me this, but obviously that's...
How have you coped with that concept of your experience of motherhood is different
Yeah.
and the people around you, and then obviously people that don't know you when you're out with Ernie?
Yeah.
Have you been able to manage other people's views and opinions and expectations?
So I always... So say my advice to someone who has a friend that has like a child with a need or think they're going to have is if you want to support that person, research it. Because research it and say, no, we can't come round to your house for coffee and a play date because that's not normal,
So take the time out to learn about the situation.
Yeah, don't let me tell you.
Yeah.
If you know I'm
Yeah,
going
'cause
through
you must have
something,
to explain that.
it's
a lot of
grief. I
times.
went
Yeah.
through, I don't know, maybe 18 months of grief because I didn't envision, like how his life's going to be. Is he ever going to get a job? Is he ever going to learn to drive? And then is he ever going to have kids? And I don't think that is probably ever going to happen. So then I'm never going to be a nan.
Man, your brain just goes on overdrive, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But you can't stop it.
Because
Yeah.
with it, you have to future-proof.
Yeah, of
And what
course,
if I die?
Yeah.
And I know everyone's with a child, that is everyone's worst nightmare. You die and leaving your child, but what on earth would happen if I die and I've had to
I
put
think
little
that's
things
You
in?
bust
the big
things in
difference,
place,
and I
don't you?
think
Uh-huh.
you would. So you was talking the other day about 18 and that decision making and getting to 18.
Yeah.
if you've got that decision of going, that's not an option. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You completely mindset changes with being a parent. And
Yeah.
it's okay saying that you're always responsible because you're always responsible for your children.
But they can make a change. They can say no to you, can't they?
Exactly. You can then get to a point where they start to fight you back or whatever. You've always got.
Or Ernie will live with me forever. For as long as I can physically have him, he will live with me forever.
I've got a similar situation with that in my family, whereas my granddad and grandma they adopted a handicapped child. He was born okay, but then he was shook vigorously as a baby. So he became handicapped. And my granddad and grandma adopted him, and now they're like 85, and they're just starting a transition where my aunt she's been a carer and helping throughout the years, but it's slowly moving to she's taking more ownership of it. And my granddad and grandma are hating it because it's like he's 43, but he's still their baby because obviously he's got so many needs. But it's just a massive transition.
And
I think that's what keeps them young.
Yeah.
So your grandparents adopted somebody with disabilities to care for them?
Yeah.
His grandma and granddad are legends. They've
amazing. Sorry, you're going through it. I've been through it.
Yeah.
And like you said, like you feel like someone handed it to you, and we have to assume this new role that we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
That is difficult.
Yeah.
But to then proactively decide to take that on.
And they didn't just adopt him.
43 years ago.
My
They didn't just
grandma,
adopt him.
they had 4 kids on their own, and they adopted 5.
Yeah.
5.
Oh
Wow,
my!
yeah.
And
goodness.
our
got a big
granddad
family.
Our granddad just gone on holiday with him, and he had 5. So there's like 10 kids all running around of different
Our
nationalities.
granddad's Ben's grandma's brother.
Yeah.
You definitely sound like your person.
Well, apparently when there was all on the beach, that's what people used to say.
Right.
They used to say there was a school or something travelling away. So,
Yeah.
Are you related to a monkey?
You can be if you want.
Somewhere along the way.
Yeah, that's incredible. I did not know that.
And 43 years ago, there was not the even the level of support of that.
Yeah.
So education is one thing.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that came when I said, what needs to change.
Main
Obviously,
thing,
that's a big thing for you.
Yeah.
But you've managed to tick a box there, and that's one thing. Thinking about the needs of SEN children of autism, parent support. What else do you think we need to get better at as a society?
I think that funding so that they don't have to work or they can work part-time and be able to not have to claim well, obviously it would be a benefit, but not
a job seeker's allowance.
Yeah, and it'd be frowned upon. So another thing like DLA, so disability living allowance, you can get that without a diagnosis, but to get that you have to fill out like a 40-page document and explain everything. And if you have a diagnosis, that should be it.
And also as well, they're giving the most amount of work to somebody who's also doing the most amount of work.
Exactly.
Looking after their children.
And if you've done it wrong, then it comes back and you don't get it. And this family,
so they're adding to an already pressured situation.
And I feel so privileged, I don't know if that's the word, but lucky to have my job.
You're grateful of the fact that you've got those elements.
And I don't
in your
need to
life.
rely on that, but I know I have friends that rely on that every single month.
Which is
and
why
it's pittance.
social workers are supposed to come in and help you fill out those
Yeah,
forms and
exactly
do all that for you.
Yeah.
But they're scarce.
I fill out forms for people.
Yeah, this is what I mean.
Yeah.
Because the social worker, they come once every 6 months.
Yeah.
And,
is there anything that you found that other people might not have found that you can point them in the direction?
Yeah, there's a charity called Family Fund, and that gives you, I think it used to be every 12 months, but there's so many children now, so I think it's every 15 months, but you can apply for a grant and you can use that towards anything you want. It's about £500, and normally people use it towards holidays, but if your fridge is broke or, I don't know, your oven's broke or you need a new swing, you can access that every single year.
That's amazing.
And it's £500, but it's a lot of money, and we go to Centre Parks with that every year.
We'll put the link in here.
Yeah.
So what's that called?
Family Fund it's called. But I actually donate to them every single month. So basically, I think I'm just getting it back. But
yeah, but you're supporting something good.
Yeah,
because
it's
you know how well
amazing.
it is. You're then putting back into the pot, which is what, if more people know what it is, the pot's
and you
gonna
don't
get
need a
bigger.
diagnosis with that. You just have to explain. I think you have to be claiming high-level disability allowance, but again, you don't need a diagnosis for that as long as you've explained what's wrong. But that form's long.
How did you find out about that?
Through one of Joe's ex-partners.
Right.
She's got a few children that have got special needs.
Who's Joe?
My brother Jay.
Right.
So
And
this
she's
knowledge
amazing.
is being passed on just by word of
well,
mouth.
there's a thing called, so you go to the doctor and you think your child's got needs. So the doctor said, right, can you document everything? You document everything, they send it to the local authority, they send it back and say, we can't help you. And then you go into a forum on Facebook and there's thousands of, mainly mums, and some dads who put their hand out and say, I'll help you. and then you get all
so
the
communities
information.
helping each other.
Yeah.
And that's social media. That's a good thing about social
Yeah,
media.
really
See,
good.
we never had any of that.
No,
social media
exactly.
wasn't about
Well,
we were just isolated. But so going back to the charity, so what was it, Family Fund?
It's called Family Fund, yeah.
And what an amazing thing they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money that makes a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know what your views are, but when you think about systematic problems and where charities come in. So my little boy Harley, the wheelchair that they provided wasn't suitable. He couldn't sit in that wheelchair. It was a horrendous contraption. Yeah, it didn't even have a spring on it, like any form of suspension or anything.
Yeah.
So we had to raise $2,500 for the one that he needed. It was like a pushchair, wheelchair hybrid thing. So we didn't have any money. We were young, really young, no money. And his nan did a fundraiser for it and raised the money for it. That's how the Holiday Trust was born.
Okay.
So obviously now, So we got that in, and then obviously we started this charity from that moment.
Yeah.
We also give £500 grants out for our cohort.
Yeah.
Who's that? You're the charity
Holiday Trust. We give out grants, and one of them's £500 once a year. They can access it for pretty much anything they want after a long-term stay in hospital, right? Now, I asked myself, okay, what we're doing, we're filling a gap. It's just like Family Fund is for you. Are we encouraging the system here?
I was just about to say, by everyone helping.
I asked myself this. I asked myself this because the government allow charities like mine and Family Fund to operate.
Yeah.
They're happy just to watch us have to raise all the money, work really hard to fill gaps that they're refusing to fill themselves.
But and Lucy doing the work for them. If the people are, they're putting people under pressure to the point where they know that they've got to do it.
Yeah, and you're doing the work for them. And what we found is because Lucy, Harley's mum Lucy, did all the work, we then got less support.
Yeah.
Because what they do is, their family, Harley's family, they'll just do it themselves.
Yeah.
We'll just
there's a flip coin to that though, because the people that generally haven't got that support or aren't intelligent enough then get more of the help,
and that's how they justify it.
Do they, though?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. That's,
and that's a question. But do they?
Yeah, because it's about who shouts the loudest.
Okay, yeah, that's.
And if you're, I've only got Ernie, so if you're one of four, or your fourth child has diagnosed with something, you haven't got the time.
Because I think that's how they pass it off. So I didn't know either of that information, and then you'd think, okay, that's a good thing. Do you know what I mean? But if that's not going to them, then nobody's getting it.
Who knows? Only they know themselves. It's local authority running. The money, it's a money pit. We don't know what happens. We don't know where the money's going.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, the Holiday Trust, we will never stop. And I'm sure the Family Fund will keep going as much as we possibly can.
But if you had that alongside funding as well, that would help so much more people.
Yeah, exactly. But we need, charities need to exist for families to get the support.
Yeah.
But the downside to that is that the government are just allowing us to do it.
Yeah.
They're just letting us without really, saying what they should be doing is matching our pounds.
100%.
That's what they should be doing.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
That's
but they don't see it. They don't see, those sort of things. They just see it as numbers. They don't look like going back to the panel of going in to try and why am I trying to prove to you that my child has a need? He has, whether he's got a diagnosis or not. But that's why everyone tries to fight for a diagnosis. But at the moment, the NHS, to get a diagnosis for autism or ADHD, there's an 18-month waiting list, and that's only to get see a paediatrician.
18 months to see a paediatrician.
Yeah, to see a paediatrician so only sees a paediatrician twice a year. It's absolutely pointless. I don't even take him with me.
It's
wow.
It's worrying.
Something on a smaller level. My daughter's football team, one of her teammates fell over, broke a collarbone, and they told her it was a 12-hour wait for an ambulance. 12 hours because it wasn't an emergency. So they had to get in a car. And you think about that's happening on a normal everyday level. Yeah. And then when there's more kind of consistent care needed, like in Ernie's case, that's even worse. So the question I have is okay, government, are you going to look after us or not?
Yeah.
It's a yes or a no. And what they're doing, they're saying, yes, we are paying taxes, but they're not delivering on that.
I mean, I think the NHS is amazing. And I it's something that we're so lucky to have. But I think it's just getting trodden on. And I think more...
It's on its knees.
100%. And I think more people are going private. I go private straight away for Ernie, and I'm able to do that, but I shouldn't have to. He needed grommets, ear grommets 2 years ago in his ears, just to widen his tubes because his tubes were so small because he was prem. And I went, and there was a 24-month waiting list. And then obviously I'm not going to wait that.
You see, I've experienced it today because, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, when Harley was born, the NHS was in a different place. And actually, the children's hospital that we went to two, they were incredible, amazing, top-notch care. Couldn't really complain about much from a health point of view.
Okay.
Today, though, I think it's very different.
Yeah. I think this is why children are struggling, I think, and then it all goes through to mental health, and it goes to teenage suicide, and it's just like a huge circle because no one knows who they are or what they should be accessing. Like, if you have diagnosed with a learning difficulty and you have an EHCP, you can get driving lessons. Like the government pay for driver lessons, but to get that. But there was a member of parliament, I don't know his name, I can't remember his name, I will find it out. But he is recorded saying that an EHCP is just a fashionable certificate to get your child, to get money for your child. And he's been reprimanded and he's obviously now stepped down. But nobody chooses this life. Nobody wants this life.
You just got to ignore idiots like that.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that an idiot like that is in the public eye in the first place.
Yeah. But I think you can't even get one. It's so hard to get it. You have to have an assessment to get it. But like I said, there's an 18-month list. But now I know that the NHS are accepting private referrals now, which they didn't used to do.
What does that mean?
So you can go, so if you think your child has needs, you can go privately and pay £500 or £600.
Oh, to the NHS.
Yeah, to the NHS. And there's only a few that they will accept.
So they'll see you soon.
Oh, you'll see you tomorrow. Because private,
wow, they can find time.
Well,
money talk.
Well, private healthcare isn't any better. It's just it's time. You're buying time. That's all you're buying. It's the same doctor. I saw the same doctor for Ernie in the NHS and private.
You're just buying his time quicker and just
you can get an appointment tomorrow. But how many children are going to...
It's shocking, isn't it? It's absolutely shocking.
I know, you smile, but you're really thinking about it going, wow.
Well, the thing is, in this country, when we're indoctrinated from children to be taught that the NHS is the crown jewel of Great Britain.
Yeah.
We've got a free healthcare system. It's amazing. This is why we tax you so much. We need this. And you know what? For a long time, it's worked. It's been incredible. The question is, where are we now with the NHS? Like, can people talk about money? We've had a conversation about this before. Funding. That is a problem, but there is also a competency problem. Are we competent enough to run it? Not the nurses, the doctors. They're amazing. And what about from a government management point of view? Do we have that competency now?
It feels like it's falling apart at the seams.
Because things are changing. Time's changing. More and more diagnoses are coming out. People are living longer.
Yeah.
It's getting harder to manage. And it's a scary time at the moment. It's a really scary time. Because
I think that's go full circle, sorry to interrupt, with schooling and the striking. Because it goes full circle because mainstream schools are just getting all these children coming through undiagnosed in reception. And we're, children nappies and children that can't speak and things like that. And there's just one teacher to 35 children.
And that's the problem because when you get teachers, as you do nurses, who are overworked and underpaid, and they've got their own issues and their own mental health problems because of their burnout, what effect does it have on education?
And it's not just the SEN child that suffers, it's the neurotypical child that suffers as well.
So can you just say that again?
SEN child,
so what does that mean?
Special educational need child that suffers. It's the neurotypical child as well. So, the neurotypical 5-year-old who's just started school is next to my boy who can't concentrate without bouncing on trampoline and makes funny noises that he's never seen before. That child suffers because there's not enough funding for them to have the support in the classroom.
It sounds like it's not going to get any better. If anything, it sounds like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, I don't know. I think it's about making a change.
I think it's a collective issue. It's an NHS issue, not a special educational needs particular issue. I think the whole system needs to improve.
The government.
The whole system needs to improve. And they need to make a decision that are they going to do this or are we not now? Because they either need to throw everything into it or they need to go, we need to change our healthcare system in this country.
So from my job role, if I have a child that I suspect has special needs or the parents come to me and have special needs, we're able to access some funding called HLN, which is higher level needs funding. And that is supposed to mirror a wage. So that means I should be able to then go and employ a nursery nurse to look after and support this child. You get about £300 a month. But then they expect you to take these children on because there's no space in special school. Which
is nowhere near enough.
No, and then it's dangerous because if I take the children on, it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because someone's going to have an accident or they're going to,
a higher risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Right, Luke?
Yeah.
Who's that?
The guest.
Oh, sorry. We're gabbing.
No. Sorry, I'm just sorting it out. You're going very well. I'm not in shock.
So, a difficult question, but what are your hopes and dreams for Ernie?
For him to live as most independent life as he physically possibly could. So, to have the most, dare I say, normal life, but just be able to access the things that everyone else is able to access, but on his level, which should happen.
Yeah.
So he should be able to go to swimming lessons. He should be able to have driving lessons. He should be able to, be able to do work experience and things like that, and just be able to have an independent life. And I'm sure that he will be able to. if he gets the right support and the right funding and things like that.
Do you think that outcome is possible with the way the system is now?
Hopefully, with a parent like me.
Yeah.
But if you haven't got the knowledge or the time, or some parents don't understand it, and or I think, like Luke said earlier, you listen to what a doctor says, and that's what they say. When, as I know, they're wrong. And you have to challenge that. And
I think
know your child best. That's what the thing is.
I think that, like you say the wrong or right and anything like that, you just got to understand that the information you're bringing is from your experience, and they're going to see it from a paper or a past experience. Your experience is the one that's going to sort of put it across best. And so, because some people aren't as confident as you, or aren't as have the ability to sort of put their point across. Some people will be scared and take that information.
Yeah, and I think they, like you said, they just listen to what they're being told, and it's not true. Because if you don't shout loudest, then you're at the bottom of the pile. And if I didn't, Ernie wouldn't have a space.
And you shout loud. I remember as a kid. Wow.
She got you. Yeah, that's
wow.
That handy skill.
Handy skill. Arguing with 3 brothers has helped her out.
So on the subject of talking loud and shouting out, you mentioned before the recording started that you were part of a group.
Yeah.
There's a protest. I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So there's a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and it's called Send Reform. So Special Educational Needs Reform, and it's about a group of women. It started on TikTok. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a group of women that are all in the same boat as me. I'm probably in a better boat because I've got a school space. These haven't got any school spaces, and we're talking like 13-year-olds, 8-year-olds, all different. And they have started a protest. They went to the House of Parliament in June, and they're doing like mini protests all around the country, and it's to get the government to reform the educational system. But it's a huge Facebook profile, and you can go on there, and it's a bit like a hub, really, where you can get so much information. There's loads of links on there to say, like, if you think your child has needs, where do we begin? And it's literally just a group of mums that have started it.
So do they petition to Parliament?
Yeah.
So you need 100,000 don't you, to get in?
Yeah. So you
need to get sharing
I think they're 89,000 at the moment.
Oh, send it over.
Yeah, I will. I'll put it on today, and then I've got loads, so I'll send it over. So
yeah, 89,000. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
But a group of mums, they're powerful.
Oh wow.
Oh, yeah,
100%.
You
don't want to listen to a group of mums.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
One mum.
You know what MPs are, just twitching the curtains.
Yeah, 100%. Oh wow,
they're not going anywhere.
Can't we get the stop all guys back?
Yeah,
we can deal with them.
Yeah.
But I think in the year they're splitting off. So there's like one in Lincoln, there's one in Nottingham, there's one in Manchester, and they're doing like mini protests. But it's just about raising awareness. And I think if you don't know a child with special needs, you think it's just, they go to a special school and that's that.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a fight to get into.
There's a whole world there that we don't know.
Yeah.
I've learned so much just from talking to you about that.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's amazing that you spoke about it really, really well. So thank you for that. Like, so clearly, you should do more of this. And especially if you're helping this group, what are they called? Sorry?
Send Reform.
Send Reform, yeah. Tell them to get you down there at Parliament.
I agree.
Well, I was supposed to go, but...
Yeah.
And I think as well, when you said about the 9 days and not knowing about Ernie, I think the things that you're doing for other people's kids and Ernie himself will just show what kind of person you are.
I think as well, it's just about having that knowledge, and I think now Ernie is hopefully, settled, and we've got a plan for Ernie. Now I can put my head elsewhere for other people now.
Yeah.
I think I was trying my hardest, but then I was getting a bit of a muddle. But now Ernie is hopefully settled. We're going to be settled at his new school. Then I could just relax a little bit, and hopefully he's going to be there till he's 19. So.
But also looking after yourself while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Don't feel too much of that time up with help. Help others.
Yeah.
But you know what? In my opinion, I think that you will help loads of people just by role modeling what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean that fight that you give and not accepting.
No for an answer.
No for an answer or the first option that they give you. And there'll be so many mums out there, first time mums as well, that will actually struggle in them situations.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Listen to people like you, and some of those other mums will be useful.
Yeah, and there's going to be people that are watching now with no support, not knowing where to go. So, like you say, you've put them in the right direction.
Well, the first thing they offer you when you think your child has needs is parenting class. So, how on earth does that make you feel? Wow. A parenting class.
Yeah,
and I think it's like a 9 or 12-week parenting class. And obviously, because of COVID, it's on Zoom. I didn't do it.
So you know what? That's on Zoom.
Yeah.
And who's teaching it? So, this is interesting.
And I know one of our friends did the parenting class. She did it. And they were saying a normal child, which is the word you cannot use because we're all normal.
So this must be this personal sort of parenting style to give you parenting
Well,
lessons.
it's to tell you how to deal with.
And basing against a normal child that they've...
sadly, what that really is. It's a box tick for them to say that they're helping.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's all it
but
is.
how can you give me parenting styles for a disorder?
Yeah.
A disability.
That you don't even know what the outcome's going to be.
When you haven't been diagnosed either. So
it's patronising, isn't it?
It's very patronising, and I just said...
So the government's sort of way of dealing with this is a bit like a bull in the china shop, just ticking boxes and...
I think...
It's a rat race for them, isn't it?
It is, and it is expensive.
Yeah.
And it's becoming, like I say, not popular, but I think there's a lot more children struggling with different needs, and the autism spectrum is so high. And I think there's some celebrities that are saying they're autistic, right? Because you can go online and you can fill out a form and it comes out that you're autistic.
So do you mean
because the whole thing now that's going on now, this whole victim mentality.
Yes.
People wanting to have something,
But what people don't understand though about that blasé attitude and wanting that and getting online and like you said about the Americans doing actual brain MRI is that's just taking away all of the support, because if people are then making it
it's subjective here.
Yeah.
So people
with autism, if you, I think they'd save money by doing the MRIs. Yeah. And I tell you what would happen is if they said to a parent, pay for an MRI, they'd do it.
And you would have more of an option to do that, and you would is that not an option then? You can't have that.
Well, Ernie, I requested an MRI for Ernie last August, and it's not urgent because I would pay for him to have one, just for his sleep and if I was missing something. Yeah. And I've not heard anything, and that was last August, and. It's not something that needs pushing, so I haven't pushed it. Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt the school routine.
But there's people that do need it, and then having that same system.
Like I say, like an autistic brain, I might be wrong, but I know, how we have like squiggles in our brain, like one side's flat, like quite soft. So it is a brain disorder. It's a disability, and I think a lot of people think it is classed as a learning disability, but it's not like dyslexia or ADHD. Like your brain has been damaged. It's brain damage.
Yeah,
that's it. Sorry. Yeah.
Like you say, it's been diluted though by people using it too many times.
Well, I had to go to court. Mini court. What is it? Small claims for a disability badge. So to fill out a disability badge, if you can walk, you don't get one.
No.
But Ernie can walk, but doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's so bad.
And you pay for the badge. You have to pay for it anyway.
Oh my
But it helps me so much because we're parking closer, it's safer.
Yeah.
I can get him out of his car seat. But that took me a year and a half to get. And I had
a year and a half
to get a disability badge, and I had to take them to court. So we spent more in legal fees.
What do you mean took them to court? What did you say? Just because they weren't responding?
Get a solicitor, yeah. Wow. No, they do respond, but they say no.
Wow.
So I did it first when I first thought he had needs, and that got declined, so I just left it. But then I did it when he got bigger. I need one because if it's just me and him, I can't go into a tight space and get him out. I need the space. I need to be closer to wherever we're going. And like you can park on double yellows and things like that.
Yeah.
And they just said no because you fill out a form and literally the form says, do they walk? And you just have, he does walk.
And then no is
he
just
has 2 legs.
Next pile, please.
But he has brain damage. So if his legs say I'm not going, they don't go.
Yeah, it just sounds like the forms are outdated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Up.
The whole system's outdated.
Yeah.
And on a wider scale, the sad thing about all of this is that when it comes to like the economic problems in society, on the news at the moment is the cost of living crisis, and people saying that they need more help and we need to lower taxes so we can live, all this sort of stuff. But your battles are going unseen.
Yeah.
And it's been like that since day dot.
Yeah.
These battles are still unseen. So this is why platforms like doing podcasts and
definitely.
social media is so important for people like you and the rest of the mums.
Yeah.
Well, the best thing about a battle is to have more people as a support, and then that battle gets easier, doesn't it?
So like if your child's incontinent, so if they're over 5 and they aren't toilet trained, they're classed as incontinent. Ernie is fine in that department, luckily. But there's a 12-week referral to get nappies. Now, to get a nappy for a child that's over 6, to get a pack of nappies is 17 quid. That's going to last you 3 days.
Wow.
You're talking £300 a month. Your DLA doesn't even cover that. And they will say that's what it's for. That's not what it's for.
And that's a basic need.
That is a human right.
Yeah.
They can't go to the toilet by themselves.
That's
it's a human right. Yeah.
So and these are the battles that aren't being reported in the news, that are just in corners of society that people are ignoring.
Do you feel like nobody cares? Do you think it's...
Do you know what? Until I had Ernie, I'm not saying I never cared, but you didn't understand. So it's just something you don't know about.
Even being my nephew, I didn't know anything. So
you just don't understand. So you're not bothered if you don't understand, if that makes sense. I was quite rude to it. But
it's like ignorance is bliss.
Exactly that. Yeah. And I think the louder you shout and you tell everyone about them, then hopefully people listen and start to change.
Well, I think there's news about a lot of other things that could be shelved to have this as news. That's the problem, but it's just not popular, is it?
No.
Or it's
But it is
obviously
popular.
not being. Oh, and that's
And
what I
it's a
think we'll
taboo
find
subject,
out.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And people
is a
don't know what
taboo
to say the
subject.
right thing, or you don't want to use
I
a
think it
derogatory
should be
term,
popular, and you're probably going to get it more popular now.
Hopefully,
So,
yeah.
Raising
Okay.
awareness. Yeah.
You know what, Lucy? It's been amazing. Time has flew though.
thank
We've
you.
got to wrap it
No,
up.
thanks for having me, boys.
Now, but like I said, you spoke amazingly.
Oh, thank
So
you.
yeah, so you carried yourself really well there.
Yeah.
Thank
And I
you.
feel
You're
an
like
inspiration.
There'll probably be people wanting to know a little bit more information. So
Yeah,
if we
hit me
do,
up.
we can. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We can get that passed over, or maybe another one in the future.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
and we'll share the social media forum.
Please, yeah.
And then sorry, just remind me of what the
So the
government
charity's Family Fund,
family fund.
and the social media is called Send Reform.
Send a reform, and
Yeah.
that's the one with a petition.
Yeah, that's the petition. So hopefully that's going to make
So
a
everyone
change.
get out
Get
there.
it signed.
Yeah,
It's we'll
Get it
share it on
signed.
our social
Yeah.
media and let's see if we can get it signed.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Luke's professional podcaster.
Hey up.